Hi, I'm Adam and welcome to South Wales Ghost Watch. Here we are once again, and this week we're going to be talking about mythological creatures in Wales. And on my show today I've got special guest Lee Richards, as you know, he's been on previous shows with us.
Thank you very much, Adam.
And today, well, we're going to be talking about werewolves, big cats, things like the Beast of Bodmin, Welsh dragons, fairies. Also, with the Welsh Bigfoot, which you mentioned throughout the show, the Nessie in Bala Lake, and sheeps and cattle that have been savaged in different parts of Wales as well.
Yes,
so,
Welsh vampire sightings and
yeah,
a number of these phenomena occur in various parts of the British Isles.
Yeah.
West Country, Cumbria, parts of East Anglia and Wales as well. And some of them are more unique to Wales, and we'll talk about those,
Okay, so you know the Welsh werewolf, I understand.
Yes.
Is that a myth or is that?
Well, I mean, there's some mythology involved, but it seems like in Britain as a whole, the werewolf tradition has some strong roots in Wales, really. I mean, there are historical recordings, and just because something's a historical recording doesn't mean it's not true. I mean, there's good examples of this. I mean, if you look at Troy, I mean, many scholars in the 19th century thought Troy was a complete myth until it was, it was discovered. Same as Arthurian legends, it's now generally accepted that there was a King Arthur. And again, 50 years ago, people would have scoffed at that. So in terms of the werewolf traditions, I mean, the earliest recorded sighting, well documented, was in the 1790s in North Wales, when a wolf-like creature, quite huge in proportions, it was said to be the size of two coaches, attacked a coach party travelling, I think, between Wrexham and Denbigh in North Wales, and they managed to escape it, but it bit one of the horses in half. And a year later, a similar size, a similar sized creature was witnessed stalking various local farms. There were massive paw prints found in the snow. One farmer at the time claimed to have seen this huge wolf-like creature standing on hind legs, so that's interesting, with a sheep in its mouth, and it pursued him into his farmhouse, where he hid. And a few years later, on the Welsh border with Chester, again, similar sightings of this large wolf-like creature, able to stand on its hind legs. That's the important thing.
Okay, so they stand up like a human then?
Yeah, I mean, don't forget, around this time, it's arguable there were still wolves in Britain in the 18th century. They may have died up completely by the 1790s, so people would have known probably if it was an actual wolf or not, but let's be clear about that. And I think, so at this time, in the late 1790s, the mutilated bodies of two vagrants were found on the Welsh border at the time when these sightings took place. So those are in that period in the 1790s in North Wales. It seems there was, people seemed to think there was some kind of large wolf-like creature, though not a wolf, prowling the countryside. And there have been more recent sightings of wolf-like creatures since then, of course. I'm happy to talk about those if you want.
Yeah, okay, so what are the wolf-like creatures?
I mean, there was a well-reported incident in the late 1970s. It was on BBC Wales television, and it was created some headlines at the time, and where I think it was in mid-Wales, a woman came downstairs and found what she said was a wolf-like creature on its hind legs in her living room, when it just leapt through the window.
Sounds a bit scary.
Yeah, it was, and that's what she claimed.
Yeah.
Also, there are these reports in the 1990s again in North Wales of a strange creature. It's approximately 6 feet or something in height, and it was seen over a period of 2 years in the early 1990s. 70 recorded sightings, and local sheep would go missing, farmers would find mutilated animals, and
on a full moon as well, wasn't it?
on a full, yeah, it seemed to coincide. I mean, that's what they seem to find, and the local people had advice from, I think it was London Zoo, or how to create a trap to trap this creature. And it was trapped, but apparently managed to escape the iron cage. And I think zoologists in London, an animal naturalist, said, you know, it couldn't have been done by any naturally known, you know, creature, any indigenous animal couldn't have done that,
Okay.
you know. And also, people were clear this wasn't any kind of dog. You know, people were clear about that. And then in 2004, again in North Wales, always seems to be North Wales.
Is this also North Wales, not the South?
Well, there are other, you know, werewolf traditions in South Wales, although sightings of other strange creatures, which we'll talk about later. But in 2004, again a wolf-like creature, not a dog, about 5 feet in length, was apparently seen wandering around villages and in the countryside, and local cats were disappearing, and the RSPCA advised local people not to let the cats out if possible. And they say it was described as grey in colour, a very long snout, not a dog, because people were clear about that, so that, you know, it wasn't any kind of dog, it wasn't a wild dog. So, you know, I think there are some interesting werewolf traditions and stories in Wales, and apparently, you know, documented, you know, not myths as such, but perhaps real creatures of some kind.
Yeah.
What, I don't know.
Yeah. And they have been seen regularly, just on random times in the 90s. And
Yeah,
stuff.
when there's a full moon, I mean, you know, there have been that's certainly been found, and they tend to be periodic, you know, spates that's seen. And the interesting about these things, maybe that's where there is a paranormal element, is they disappear. You know, where do they disappear to?
Yeah, that's it.
Which makes it is very curious.
Yeah, and there's also the Beast of Bodmin as well.
Yeah, Bodmin obviously is it's in West Country, and it's strong. It's one of the parts of Britain where there are, I do think early before the programme we talked about the Surrey Puma, where these large big cats are seen, and paw prints are recovered, and they're sent off to zoologists and zoos, and they say, yeah, it's a big cat. Obviously, isn't indigenous to Britain, and one of them is Beast of Bodmin, and I think at one point to the Beast of Bodmin, because there were I think some attacks on humans as well as farm animals. The army were called in, and they isolated this creature to a farmhouse or barn, and it was trapped there. And when of course they got in the barn, it wasn't there. Which, you know. But the interesting thing about the big cat phenomenon in Britain and in Wales is obviously, although there are traditions of big cats going back to the 6th century in Wales, one theory is, because obviously big cats are not indigenous to Britain, is they were brought over by the Romans.
Okay.
I mean, for instance, Richard the Lionheart brought a crocodile over apparently from the Crusades, and in 1976, I mean, since the Dangerous Animals Act, I think, was brought in 1976 in Britain,
Yes.
the numbers of sightings seems to have proliferated. Apparently, because all the act was brought in, it didn't mean you couldn't have a lion or a leopard or a crocodile, but it's very expensive to have a license to do so.
Yes.
But it wasn't actually enforced till 1981, so people could release these animals. Perhaps they could take a leopard or a panther to Breck and release it. It wasn't illegal to do that till 1981.
Really?
But, you know, obviously there's a big cat expert called Chris Nynham, who I think he's got a website called bigcatsuk.com. It's worth having a look at that. You know, you can put in any part of Britain and it'll tell you if there'll be big cat sightings.
Okay.
And Wales features quite, you know, not surprisingly, because it's quite rural
Yeah.
in large part. Wales features quite prominently.
And the Beast of Bodmin was from the West Country originally.
Yeah.
Ooh,
One thing,
yeah.
sorry to interrupt. One thing about, I mean, there may be some overlap because, of course, it's estimated these big cats can, in one night, they can move in an area 80 miles in diameter, and they can easily walk a distance of 20 miles.
Okay.
You know, so it's possible that, you know, there's some crossover, you know. But the expert Chris Nynham reckons there are leopards, pumas, black panthers, ocelots, even North American big cats living in, certainly in Wales. And there are various estimates of how many big cats there may be on the loose, you know, but clearly, in terms of the sightings, I mean, in North Wales alone in the last decade, there have been 50 sightings.
Okay, so quite a few then.
So obviously there seem to be, although they can move quite, you know, quite freely over large areas, there would seem to be quite a number of you know, big cats on the loose in Wales, and I would say in Port Talbot area.
So they're slightly less mythical than the Welsh werewolf then, because they're...
Yeah, I mean,
sightings, like you said.
there are, yeah, I mean, it seems, you know, because they've, I'll give an example, the Beast of Tonmawr.
Beast of Tonmawr?
Yeah,
that's
quite, well, they're closer than that. You know, they're closer than that. Talk about that in a moment. But Beast of Tonmawr in the mid-1990s, people, you know, would hear this animal crying at night, and you know, they were attacking animals, and cats and dogs got missing, and then people claim to have seen this big black cat-like creature. When I say big, the usual dimensions are around about 5 feet. You know, far bigger than any domestic or even feral cat could be. And at first, you know, the authorities were very sceptical of these sightings. But casts were made of the prints, sent off to again, I think to London Zoo it was then, and they confirmed they were the prints of. They said it was a North American big cat.
Okay.
So that was in Tonmawr in the mid-1990s, and more recently than that, only 2 years ago, the bike trail in Avon Country Park. People work in the park, and people use the trail. Have seen large black cats in the park, and there's even there's a village called Bryn, of course, not far from here. There's a race called the Beast of Bryn, I believe, a local kind of race of some kind.
Okay, yeah.
And it's named after sightings of this creature that's been seen in Bryn and Carmarthen. And this is all within the last couple of years. So
That's a bit too close for comfort, isn't it?
well, there's a saying, isn't it? You know, if you go into the woods today, you're sure a big surprise.
Yeah.
It's certainly true in Wales. If you go into the woods, you might get a very big surprise.
Yeah. There's also the demon dog as well, which I wanted to mention to you.
Yeah.
The Gulli,
Yeah.
about the dog that haunts the lonely roads at night.
Yeah, it's got again. This is part sort of folklore throughout the British Isles, really.
Yeah.
And it's got various names. The Devil Dog, the Devil's Hound, Black Shuck, I think it's called in East Anglia, and these are huge black hounds with fiery eyes. You know, said to stalk certain parts of the countryside, as you say, crossroads. They've been seen for hundreds of years, often seen as bringing ill omen, and people who've encountered them have a feeling of dread. I think with those, they are probably more paranormal in origin than seeing the big cats, which would seem to be real creatures. That seem to be breeding in rural parts of the British Isles, you know, real creatures.
Okay. Other creatures which we'll talk about here is also the Welsh Nessie, found in Bala Lake.
Yeah, Teggy.
Well, what can you tell me about that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, lake monsters, lake serpents aren't actually unique to Scotland. Through the British Isles again, an island, there are legends, you know, of serpent-like creatures inhabiting lakes, and Lake Bala in North Wales. Since the 1920s, there have been a number of sightings of. It's said to be a crocodile-like creature, about 10 feet in length.
Okay.
And again, apparently in the mid-1970s, there was film footage of this creature, which I haven't been able to lay my hands on, but apparently maybe it's in some archive somewhere. If you think about Lake Bala, I mean, I think it's the largest freshwater lake in Wales. Certainly, it's 4 miles long, I think, and 1.6 kilometres wide, and it's got an abundance of fish, you know, living in it. So, you know, if there were some unknown creature.
It's possible we would know because it's such a big lake.
Yeah, that's the argument about Loch Ness. It is so big, and you know, Loch Ness is vast and deep, and you know, and that's one of the arguments about Teggy, as it's called, in Lake Bala. Yeah. So we have got a real Nessie in Wales, and even in there's a lake in Swansea, the Enterprise Zone, and someone, and this was widely reported a couple of years ago, claimed to have seen a crocodile type creature there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have there been many sightings of this creature in Barrow Lake, or just?
But Teggy, yes, since the 1920s, periodically, and again they tend to be, as with UFOs, a lot of these phenomena, you know, we tend to be, you get periods where there's quite a lot of sightings, and then nothing happens, and it's the same with, certainly in the mid-70s, which was a period of what people call high strangeness, where strange things go on. In the mid-70s there were sightings of Teggy, but periodically each decade there are sightings. I think there was a couple of years ago there was a report in BBC Wales that there had been some sightings about 2 or 3 years ago. So yeah, Teggy keeps, whether it's, you know, it's a real creature or not, it keeps being seen.
Oh, okay. There's also the Welsh Bigfoot as well, which I understand. Has that been found in parts of North Wales?
Well, no, actually, I mean, again, these things
about...
Yeah, that's the thing. Again, throughout there's a guy called Nick Redfern who writes all kinds of stuff, paranormal stuff, UFOs, and he's a bit of an expert. And he's, you know, his area of interest is more a place called the Cannock Chase, which is in the Midlands, a large area of woodlands in the Midlands, where ape-like or hairy, large hairy ape-like creatures have been seen. And there is, though in Wales, there is a tradition of such creatures, apparently, it's a long tradition that creatures like that lived around Snowdonia.
Yes, yeah.
And also, but more recent, you know, in terms of actual sightings, in Tredegar a couple of years ago, there was a gentleman who claimed to have seen a type of creature like that. He was walking his dog, I think, in a place called St James's Park in Tredegar.
Okay.
He did claim, and it's reported that he's got footage on his mobile of a few seconds of this creature. Again, I couldn't locate that footage, so I can't comment on its authenticity. But I think 3 years ago in Llanelli, and this was reported quite widely in the local press, local children were scared by a hairy man they saw in the woods in Llanelli. You know, and there were a number of sightings of this hairy man, wild man.
Yeah.
You know, and
yeah,
you know. So I think they again do seem, you know, to pop up from time to time.
And there's still Snowdonia, as you said, it was cited about this Bigfoot creature. It's still Snowdonia.
Yeah, there are. I mean, that's part of Welsh tradition. There's, I mean, they call grey kings or something. There's a Welsh phrase to describe them, and I can't recall it now. But they are, the tradition of such. They may be just, you know, large, hairy wild men.
Yeah.
But the second Tredegar was, he said, it was an ape-like creature, and in the Cannock Chase, which is in the Midlands, there have been a number of sightings of these large ape-like creatures, which is, so the, you know, the Bigfoot tradition or stories aren't just unique to North America, which a lot of people don't know.
Yeah, that's what I thought as well with North American mythology, that it would just be North American.
No, Western Europe, I mean, certainly the British Isles is certainly long, you know, and again the thing about these traditions is, as with the one in Snowdonia, those were traditions, you know, we're going back centuries, you know, long before anyone here knew about. I mean, people in the UK only knew about Bigfoot probably as early as the 1960s, maybe the 70s. Yeah. So that's what gives these traditions, you know, makes these traditions interesting, because they, you know, they couldn't have been imported, you know. Yeah. People said, oh, we'll have that, we'll have one of those, you know, in our mountain.
And there's been certain films that have covered it as well, haven't there, like Bigfoot, and one of them is an old camera horror film which I remember correctly, is about the abominable snowman of the Himalayas. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
Yeah, I mean, there's, it seems as if Australia has its Yowie, Siberia. Yeah. There are these, throughout the world, there are, just as dragons, which we move on to in a bit, there are these stories about these creatures, whether they're ape-like or human beings, you know, who just cut themselves off from the rest of society and live a primitive life. You know, it's difficult to know, but yeah, those traditions are prevalent throughout the world.
Yeah. Or they haven't evolved in the same way that we have, perhaps. werewolves and they're still living in the forest. And
that is one theory that people put forward with that's one it's a missing link. It's I mean, these sightings do occur. That's the thing about them. You know, how authentic they are, I don't know. But I mean, Bigfoot in North America, there's a massive documentation, claims, and you know, we're not quite at that level here. But they are seen periodically.
Okay. There's also dragons. You mentioned dragons as well. Welsh dragons.
Well, dragons are. I mean, again, they're a universal phenomena.
Yeah.
You know, and there are paintings, 25,000 years old paintings of dragons, and they're part of the, prominent part of Chinese culture, Sumerians, Babylonians, the ancient Celts, and dragon. It's a Greek word. It's dragon, really, and it means large serpent. That's what it really means. And because people have an image of a dragon, they think of the wings and the breathing fire. But there are, what we're really perhaps talking about are flying serpents.
Yes, not the stereotypical dragon.
No, fire breathing. There are zoologists who claim that. I mean, because there are these dragon traditions, and there are zoologists who claim, that there were such creatures that survived the dinosaurs, evolved from them, could breathe fire. There's a German called Richard Freeman who has written quite extensively about this and thinks they were real creatures that were hunted into extinction. I mean, because the interesting thing about the ancient chronicles is up until about the 14th century Britain, there were scores of reports of people encounters with dragons. And not so much St. George and all that. I mean, just people being attacked by these dragon-like creatures. I mean, people fending them off and killing them, and I say just because the ancient chronicles doesn't mean to say they're not true. So so that's one interesting aspect of it. But the other thing about the word the dragon is, it was taken to mean among the ancient Britons a leader. So I mean, you had Uther Pendragon, the father of King Arthur in mythology, admittedly, but although there's evidence King Arthur existed.
And he was Welsh as well. He wasn't English, was he?
Yes, the ancient Britons. We're talking up until the 6th, 7th century. Were basically Welsh. That's the, so Pendragon meant head dragon or leading dragon or the leader. And I think it was Vortigern whose symbol was a red serpent, a flying red serpent, which sort of has become the national symbol of Wales.
Yeah.
A red dragon.
Yeah, the red dragon. Yeah.
But the interesting thing about dragons is there have been sightings of flying serpents throughout Welsh history, and I'd be happy to give a couple of examples if you want me to.
Yeah. Funny way. What sort of serpents?
I mean, there was a well-known folklorist called Mary Trevelyan. We're going back a couple of hundred years or so, but she spoke to people who claimed to have seen a number of flying serpents inhabiting the area around Penlyn Castle in Cowbridge. And these were people who were they were elderly people, so this would have been the mid-1700s probably they saw this, but she reported this. Also, there've been a number of these creatures seem to have been seen a lot around waterfalls. So I don't know if people know about the waterfalls around Neath. They're quite famous, but there've been a number of sightings of such creatures there over the centuries, also resolving Ystrad Gynlas. And this all might seem a bit distant, but in 2001 there was a well-known naturalist, and he refused to give his identity because he'd lost his job.
Right, okay.
And that is a fact, because if you're an academic of any kind, and you work for any university or whatever, or any government department, and you speak publicly about anything like this, UFOs, strange creatures, anything, you will lose your job. Make no mistake about that. So there are very good reasons why these people can't always speak out. And he was in North Wales in 2001, and he was with a group of colleagues, and they were investigating reports of sightings of strange flying creature, and they were approaching this quarry, and then they suddenly, out of nowhere, they observed this. They estimated it was about 10 feet long. It was green in colour. It was like a snake, a serpent, but it had short limbs, and it had a long tail, and they seemed to think the tail was sort of like propelling it round because it didn't seem to have wings. They watched it for 3 or 4 minutes, and before it disappeared into a cave, a nearby cave in the quarry. So, there have been these sightings of dragon-like creatures in Wales in recent times.
Okay. So what else we got? Fairies as well is another one which you mentioned prior to the show.
Yeah.
We associate fairies stereotypically as what we think. I think of Peter Pan when I
yeah,
think
of course.
fairy, in a light-hearted way.
Absolutely.
But we mentioned fairy abduction on a previous show as well. So fairies, could you discuss that?
Well, obviously they are, again, in the British Isles there are strong fairy traditions, little people, and Wales is considered the fairy hotspot of the UK apparently, and there's a gentleman called Colin Board who's written extensively about this subject matter. And the interesting about fairies is, they can be little folk, but they can also grow to our size as well. And so people don't always know about fairies apparently.
Yeah.
And there are they do often seem to be found around water, lakes, rivers, streams, and there are apparently areas where, so Colin Board argues, it's possible to, almost as if there's some kind of entrance into some kind of fairy world or fairyland or something. And locally, Pennard Castle, there are strong fairy traditions there.
And they come from another reality, I'm assuming.
That's what people because there have been a number of there have been as many documented sightings of fairies as there have with UFOs, for instance. This isn't widely known, and over centuries, basically as long as human beings have inhabited the British Isles, so we're talking of thousands of years. They tend to fall into disrepute now, but people still do see them. Obviously, they wouldn't report such things because people would think they're mad. They'd be ridiculed. They'd be laughed at. Because obviously there are fictional stories about fairy folk, but they are based on some fact.
Okay. I've got to ask you, what got you into studying Welsh mythological creatures?
I suppose it was. Well, I was always interested in things like Loch Ness, Bigfoot, and all those things. In terms of fairies, there's the famous example of the Cottingley fairies in Yorkshire, where 2 little girls took these photographs of fairies. Yeah. And Arthur Conan Doyle and people like that got involved and said they were authentic. And not everyone knows the story about that sighting. There's a well-known book written about it. And because for many years it was hard to disprove the authenticity of those pictures, and in the early 1980s the 2 ladies said it was a hoax, but what they actually said was I think they took 4 or 5 photos, and 4 of them were a hoax and 1 was genuine, and they actually did see fairies, and that wasn't widely reported. Obviously I was interested in UFOs, so I suppose it was, what I did was, just as I sort of took an interest in UFO phenomena in Wales, which hadn't been widely researched at the time, I suppose, the same with all these things we're talking about, big cats, werewolf traditions, lake monsters, alleged serpents, sighted flying serpents. I thought, why not look at them, where I live, and obviously the area around us, Swansea, Neath, Aberystwyth, but also Wales as a whole, because there hasn't been a lot of research done on it, or if there hasn't been documented. So I suppose that's where it stemmed from, really. And Wales, is not just a part of, it's a part of the world where there's an awful lot of this you know, high strangeness going on, whether it's paranormal based,
Yeah.
or whether it's more real and physical, as certainly with the big cats, and as I think with the UFOs. But you know, Wales is one of those places where, yeah, there seems to, for whatever reason, I mean, there's lots of great traditions, you know, and myths. Wales is one of the parts of the world which is rich in these traditions.
Is there anything which I haven't covered, or something which you'd like to mention, or something which I haven't covered yet?
Yeah, I mean, earlier on you talked about, is it a giant frog, and I didn't come across it.
Yeah, a giant frog with
fascinated
no
by
legs. It's a water serpent.
Yeah.
In Welsh, it's pronounced as the, so let me say this right, the Llanigoen Adwn.
Very
Which is
good.
a water serpent, a
Yeah.
giant water serpent found. It looks like a frog with no legs, and it was found, like I said, in waterfalls in different parts of Wales, mainly the north. And which again, doing my research, I found that really fascinating as well. And it's
That is interesting. I've not come across that. Did it say which part of Wales? Or?
yeah, mainly the northwest, the northwest of
Yeah,
Wales.
which is a bit more rural. I mean, a lot of these
Yeah.
things that we talk
Yeah.
about, perhaps seems to take place in more rural
Yeah,
areas. Perhaps not so much around Cardiff or Swansea or Newport, South Wales,
yeah,
but West Wales, Pembroke. I mean, certainly in terms of big cats.
yeah.
You know, there's quite a lot of activity there. You know, but yeah, a lot. You know, where there does seem to be a link between rural areas and these types of. But which you'd expect if you had
Yeah.
any type of creature, big cat or whatever, it would be drawn. You know, when it's quieter, because most of these creatures, certainly in terms of the big cats, want to avoid people for very good reasons. That's why witness sightings tend to be no nearer than 100 yards.
Yeah.
It's very hard to get much nearer to an animal like that. For very good reasons, you know, they've learned to be wary of humans.
And there's also the puka as well, which
Yeah,
is,
say a bit about that, yeah.
yeah, there's just, it's a changeling, a shape-shifting, that can change shape, and apparently communicate with humans as well. It can actually talk to humans.
Yeah.
And again, it's only found in the night. It's a nocturnal animal found in Wales, which again I found quite fascinating researching that. Yeah, but it's interesting. You mentioned Cowbridge earlier. You mentioned years ago about the serpents found in Cowbridge and parts of South Wales.
Yeah.
You mentioned Resolver, and I found that interesting as well. That these creatures are found in the south as well as the north. You know?
Yeah, I mean,
That's the south.
certainly in terms of this, I mean, thing about dragon sightings is, I mean, Worm's Head. It's nothing to do with the worm. The worm it's W-U-R-M, but it's a old Viking word for a serpent.
Okay.
You know, and again, also there've been, I forgot to mention, there've been sightings of flying serpents around the Gower and around the Worm's Head area over time.
Yeah.
And yeah, certainly this area in terms of these sightings of these flying serpents.
It's what sort of time period it was the...
We're talking again mostly the last couple of hundred years.
Oh,
It seems that, I mean, all the traditions of dragons and flying serpents, you know, go back a lot, as we, you know, to 1500 years in Wales, and you know, to the time of the ancient British and longer. There was a folklorist, Mary Trevelyan, you know, started to record these, and certainly since that time, you know, there've been periodic sightings, and probably, as with all these things, there will continue to be, because they do pop up from time to time. It would be nice if someone could get a picture of them or something.
yes.
But they always seem to, a lot of these phenomena, you know, people's cameras and things seem to stop working as
But
with
some of
lockheads.
but like you said, some of them might not be authentic. Like one of them you mentioned earlier. I can't remember which one it was now. Where it was the Welsh Nessie, or there'd be very few sightings of the Welsh Nessie.
Yeah, I think the one that's questioned is the one of the Welsh ape-like creature in Tredegar. People are sceptical about that.
Yeah, that's the one you mentioned. Yeah, yeah.
In terms of video footage, though, I mean, actual footage, there's and there are sketchy videos on the internet of some of these big cats we're talking about. It looks like a big cat, you know, not a wild, not domestic or feral cat, and they've been recorded throughout the British Isles. But there's a very good video on the Wales Online website of a guy called Michael Davey, who took some video footage of what he believes was an attack on a herd of sheep by a big cat, because he and his girlfriend and it was in a place near Ceredigion called Devil's Bridge.
Yeah.
And you can see this video online.
Oh, okay.
And the video, it shows the way the animals were, the sheep were attacked and how they were devoured and licked clean. I mean, it wouldn't be a dog would do that.
It's very graphic then, I'm assuming.
Well, it is very graphic, I should say, in the sense that you do see
not for the faint-hearted.
not much blood or innards or anything, but you can see the animal, the sheep have been picked clean, they've been stripped clean.
Yeah.
Which a dog wouldn't do.
No. So it sounds like something a vampire would do, drain the blood,
A strange creature because have a look at the footage. When we're talking about a number of corpses, a number of bodies.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe this ties in, going off at a tangent. We're talking earlier about cattle mutilations and things.
Yes, yeah.
They've been, although that the cattle mutilations are often tied in with UFO phenomena.
Yeah, you mentioned the place in Lincolnshire where alien-style attacks, where animals have been mutilated. You mentioned that.
Yeah, I think there were a number of farm animals were victims of. I think this is in the last few months. I think in Lincolnshire of. Basically they were. It's as if their organs been surgically removed. There was no blood in the scene. We're talking about I think it was cattle in this instance. Up to 50 cattle involved, which to a farmer, I think there's a massive loss to his income. So the people aren't going to report this. Will take it lightly. And again, before this occurred, there was reports of strange lights seen in the area. Leading up to this event. And the interesting thing about these things, like we're talking about now, cattle mutilations, is often there's no reported noise. I mean, if a farm animal's been attacked, it will make a noise.
Yeah.
A sheep or a cow, whatever. And that's the interesting aspect of this. But yeah, there was in my book, UFO Wales, I think I write about a case in Powys of red lights being seen in the sky before a series of cattle mutilations took place. Although, to be fair, in those cases, those animals are often, it looks as if their organs have been have been surgically removed. There's no blood at the scene.
Yeah.
With the big cats, the carcasses have clearly been devoured by some creature, but not any indigenous British
No,
animals.
it's something that we're not aware of. I like the fact this ties in with the alien visitation idea as well, possibly.
Well, I think if you're a farmer, you've got a lot to worry about.
Yeah.
If an alien isn't going to get your livestock, one of these big unknown creatures might.
Yeah.
And that's a fact. I mean,
just don't let them take my organs. I'll be happy.
Well, there have been. I know we're running out of time, but there have been. Big cat attacks. In Pontedulus in 1999, there was a police helicopter scoured the area because two boys were attacked apparently by a big cat, and there have been recorded instances of the British Isles. And I'm only speculating here, but you always wonder, who knows? I mean, a lot of people disappear. Sometimes people go off for a walk and never seen again. Maybe there's some link there with a big cat or something else. You don't know. I mean, I'm speculating here. I mean, I'm not saying big cats are responsible or extraterrestrials, but you never know, because some disappearances can't be explained.
Okay, well, Lee, thanks very much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Mike.
It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Pleasure to
fascinating
talk
to listen to you as well.
Very interesting.
That's all we've got time for today, guys. But thanks for tuning in and watching our show as always. Tune in